So we're on chapter 6 of Shmuel 1. Here's Esther's coming in. Let's give her some time. That's what I wanted to check. A quick synopsis. Chapter 4 was detailed the conflicts that that Israelites had or Israel had with the Philistines and the wars that broke out, and that Philistine won 2 decisive battles. On the second one, they captured the Ark because the Israelites thought that after the first defeat, if they would bring down the Ark of the Covenant, God will be with them and surely they will win. They suffered not only a devastating loss, but the Ark was captured. Chapter 5, we saw what the Philistines, thought that they took this little trophy, and the most important of Israel's holy items, and it started plaguing every city in which, or every county. It's not just a city as we know it, but a metropolis, the general area, wherever the Ark was taken to, with quite a devastating and embarrassing ailments. In those days, especially, was considered a really debasing ailments, and they just had enough. And of course, the Aron kept on traveling from one. There were the 5 major cities, and they were taking from one to the other. Okay, so now 7 months have passed, and this is chapter 6. Vahi Aron Adonai, and the Ark of the Lord, Bizdef Lishtim Shiva Chodashim, in the territories of the Philistines for 7 months. So the whole story that we've heard in chapter 5 of the Ark traveling and how long it was 7 months in the territory or under the Philistines. And it's interesting, I read a couple of Meforshim, a couple of commentaries that made a very interesting note, and they noticed, why 7? What's this 7? And they noticed that if you know the story in biblical story of Avraham had actually a run-in with the king of Philistines. Anybody wants to take a guess with whom? We actually read this on Rosh Hashanah. The story of Rosh Hashanah. This takes place very close to the Akedah and the birth of Isaac. So he has a run-in with Avimelech.
But that's the same Avimelech that he deals with later to buy the land, is it not?
No, that's Ephron. The land is with Ephron. That's somebody else. He has this issue with Avimelech. Avimelech, he actually has twice runs in with him, but now what ends up happening is finally they decided they live in peace, but there are generals or populace amongst the Avimelech that steal the wells that Abraham dug, or Abraham's people have dug, and they steal one and they steal a couple, until finally there's this showdown of what are you doing? You're taking from me, and they make a pact. They They return the wells, and the 7th well, by the way, is Be'er Shava, right? And it says this is why it's called Be'er Sheva until this very date. It was that this is where they made a promise one to another, a pact. But Avraham, as a sign and gesture of accepting, and on both sides, and it's similar, by the way, we have under the chuppah, the kala has to accept the ketubah, and it's kind of, and even though it's once you accept, so to speak, that which is written to you, you're part of the contract, even though technically you are not. You didn't sign anything, or the bride and the groom don't sign anything. And again, it's given over with something. It's an acquisition. The idea of signature was not really. It was viewed as, what is in this contract? I take it upon myself, not just by signature. It was literally physical, and you have to have 2 edim, and the edim sign that they saw that they accepted it. That is why that happens. It's called kinyan. And here also, Avraham gives Avimelech 7 kvasot, 7 sheep, as a sign that he's accepting these terms that they are agreeing to. And so here we have the number 7. So some of Farshim say that God struck them, one for each of these. They made a contract that they will not fight between each other. But here we have Avimelech's, for next generations, and they're not following this pact. And so God also smites them for 7 months, one for each of the sheep that was, so to speak. It's a beautiful little connection. So when we read it next year, Bereshit, I believe it is not Chayesara, Vaira. I believe it's there. So let's continue. So 7 months. The plagues have been hitting the Philistines for 7 months. Vaikriu Flishtim la Kohanim velakosnim le'emor. And the Philistines summoned their priests and their diviners, their magicians, however you want to call it, their spiritual leaders. Manaseh laron Adonai. What are we to do with this ark of God? Hodiunu, please let us know. Bameh neshlachenu limkomo. How should we, in what manner should we send it back to its place? So now they finally realized that this was not something to be played. This is not a trophy. This is not to be part of their society. Vayomru. And so they answered, the priests and the diviners, they answered, if you so choose to return and send the Ark of the Covenant back to the Israelites, al tishalchu otorikam, do not in any way send it empty-handed or without any accompanying items. Ki hashev teshivu lo asham, for you will have to return with it an indemnity. As terafeu venodalachem, only then will you be healed, and it will be known to you, lama lota surya domikem, why God's hand or God's pressure has not, or else God's hand will not turn away from you. In other words, he says, let's appease God. Send with them also an indemnity, so that which you've taken it, you've insulted it, however you want to look at it, but you have to put down some damages. So send something along with it. Vayomru. And so the people said, Maha Asham asher nashiv lo. So what is this indemnity? What do we do? What do we send as a form of indemnity? Vayomru mispar sarnei Filishtim chamisha techorei zahav v'chamisha achbarei zahav ki magefa achat lechulam ulesar nechem. This is a little bit difficult to grasp, but they said, what is the indemnity that you should give? You should make it for every one of the tribesmen or the head of the how would you say it? One per each of the heads of tribes. There are 5. And what should you put? For each of the heads of the tribes, you will make one chorei zahav, some kind of a formation, a design, which takes into consideration that which they got inflicted with. So here, 5 golden hemorrhoids. How do you give a hemorrhoid? I don't know. I have no clue. How Picasso or anybody would form. I don't know. If we give it to someone.
See, you're saying there's one for each tribe.
No, one for each head of the tribe. In other words, there were 5 tribes.
The cities.
Right, or 5 provinces, let's say. So for each premier, in other words, recognizing each of the 5 regions, 5 of these depictions of that which they were inflicted with. V'chamisha achbarei zahav, and also 5 golden mice. Remember I told you about the mice, that was the mice sometimes was used as a form of trying to block the hemorrhoids. Also, there are those commentaries that feel that what God was not only a personal infliction upon each and every one of the Philistines, but also on their fields. they were infested with mice, and mice, of course, we know carry with it diseases as well. So they were hit both financially and also physically. So in other words, the mice ruined and destroyed the seeds that were around in bags and the flour, etc. It ransacked. And in other words, here there's a very different approach to I guess if you want to call indemnity or sacrifices, the way that Jews, the Israelites, give sacrifices. And what they're doing here, if you look at it, is they're depicting and they're sending their maladies away. Can you see it? In other words, their heads, and they're sending the maladies away with, in other words, take that which you brought with you, versus understanding that it's okay. So on one level, they understand that the maladies are controlled by God, so they're scared. But the way that they, rather than for them to repent and give something, when you how would you repent? We have the idea that we have to give something that of worthwhile. In other words, we received the punishment. We don't give the punishment back to God. We hope God removes it from us, but we give something of value to God, so to speak. Here, they are sending off their they think that once this is done, then just take away the maladies away from us, in the way that they're sending off their maladies. We don't send anytime we break, halakha or whatever, and we get punished, we don't send the punishment back to God. What we do is we revert from, in our actions, not to do that again, but we don't send our punishment. The punishment doesn't go back so God can throw it back at us or whatever at some time, God forbid. If we have sacrifices, it's an animal, etc. It has to be kosher, has to pass stringent rules that it's healthy, etc. We don't send a depiction of the malady itself. Here, they're kind of, that society where they literally kind of, in a very symbolic way, remove that which is bothering them. Kind of like that represents that. I guess the only way that we do have some kind of a symbol like that, and that is, I guess, when we shecht with a chicken, but we say prayer, and but the chicken becomes kind of our agent. But with the prayer, when we say with the chicken, we recognize that perhaps that was the punishment that was coming to us, and we hope that God doesn't take the anger on us, but God takes the anger on another animal instead. And of course, the animal goes, it's not just killed for the sake of killing, it's then shechted properly and given off to as charity for people who need the food. And it's seen as kind of doing tzedakah, which we know it's tzedakah, tefillah, right, tshuva. That's one of the first forms of repentance or element of repentance. But we have to act and we have to change. Here they are kind of like throwing it with, here, you see, we're giving it to you and just take it away from us. So 5 of these depictions of the malady, and 5 for these mice. Some other explain that in order for them, they made a very distinct differentiation between the heads of the tribes, right? Chamisha, vayomru mispar sarnei flishtim chamisha. The heads of the tribesmen were 5, the lords of the Philistines. So for them, there were 5 of these malady type of design, and also 5 for everybody, 5 mice. So if you look at it, there was a differentiation here between the populace. It didn't say 10 for everybody to cover or 5 to cover for everyone. Why particularly? And this was the big answer. Ki magefa achat lechulam ul sarnechem. They still wanted to make the differentiation that the lords, they need their own gifts, and they didn't quite get that which, but indeed they did. Everybody was inflicted exactly the same way. This is somewhat, by the way, analogous of Pharaoh, where Pharaoh was seen as a god. Where we have Pharaoh going out to the Nile. Why? Because that's when he was seen as a demagogue and being semi godlike. He doesn't have to eat breakfast, doesn't have to go to the bathroom, doesn't do these wielding human things. So he used to do early in the morning, he used to go out and do his business. Whereas, seeing themselves different than the rest of society. And here too, there's a differentiation. Oh, they're lords. Lords don't get, no, but God hid them as well. They were no different than anybody else. Okay, so we have 5 of these depictions of the malady and 5 golden mice. Vasitem Salmei tachorechem vetsalmei achbarechem, and you shall make figurines or depictions or statuettes, kind of representing the malady and the mice that ravage your land. Hamashchitim et haaretz untatem leEloi Israel kavod, and thus you shall honor by giving appeasement, by giving gold. That thus you shall honor the God of Israel. Ulai yakel et yado malachim. Perhaps. Let's pray and let's hope that he finally lightens the weight or lightens the hit from upon you. Ume'al Elohechem, ume'al artzechem, and upon your gods and upon your land. Velama techabedu et levavchem, don't harden your hearts. Kasher kibdu Mitzrayim ufaro et libam. Just as we learned from Egypt, God warned them once, warned them twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, until it was a total destruction. And even after the 10th, they still ran after the Israelites and got destroyed in the splitting of the Reed Sea. Said, no, don't learn the lesson from Egypt. Don't harden your hearts as the Egyptians do. Do this right away. Halo kasher hitalel bahem v'shalchum vayelechu. And what happened at the end? They still left. He said, don't learn from the Egyptians. Don't be stubborn. Send off, make these golden things, and just be done with it. Do not delay.
See,
yes.
I'm a little uncomfortable with the last verse that talks about you shall honor the God of Israel. You shall make figures, and that will in this way you shall honor the God of Israel. I thought we weren't allowed to make gods or any idols of any sort.
These are the Philistines. They're not following the 10 Commandments.
Okay.
This is how they're coming up with what form of indemnity or damages or ways of a winning favor, so to speak, by what kind of offerings can we offer them? What should we send the ark with? We can't send it just empty-handed. They recognized that they had what this whole story, if I can say the overview of everything, was God is teaching them that it's really ultimately up to God. God controls. God wanted the Israelites to lose the 2 battles, but it was not it wasn't the Philistines' strength or might. This is part of God's design, and this is also part. Now they recognize that the God of Israel is stronger than their God, is stronger than their lords, is stronger than etc. So now that we're going to send it back, how do we send it back? Showing our remorse, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And so they figure, what was important to them, they're going to make some golden depictions, golden figurines depicting their malady and 5 of their maladies and 5 mice, golden mice. Okay, so that's the figurines. But these are not the Israelites. These are the Philistine who are making these. Yeah. Okay. Ve'ata, and now, also create and build a brand new cart. Ushte farot alot, and as well attach them to 2 milk cows, so female cows, not bulls. Asher lo ala le'em ol, that which they have not yet borne any yoke. Vasartem et haparot ba'agala, and you shall harness these cows to the new chariot that we're going to create. Vahashevotem beinehem macharehem abaita, and take away from them their calves and return their calves back to where they're grazed. In other words, take particularly female cows, so milk, Milk means that they just gave birth, and take their young and separate them. And if you know cows, by the way, if you've ever been to farm, the young will always follow their mothers around. And actually, cows become very aggressive if you remove the young from them, just like I think most other creatures, right? You can't separate these. So now there's specifically, they're not just take two cows that just gave birth, and we're going to find anybody have a guess why they're doing this? Preempt why? So let's find out why. Ulkachtem et Aron Adonai, then you take the Ark of the Covenant, untatem oto el hagala, and you place it on this new chariot that we're going to make, on this cart. Vet klei zahav asher hashevotem lo asham, and as well all these golden figurines which you are repaying or you're giving to as your indemnity. Tasimu ve'argaz mitzado, you will put it in a separate box just on the side. Veshilachtem oto vehalach, and you just send off the cart. And here is the test. Ur item, and you will observe. Im derech gevulo yale Beit Shemesh, if they go straight up to the road to Bet Shemesh, hu asalanu, then we know that actually all these maladies were brought to us by God, by God of Israel. Etara agdola hazot ve'im lo, and if the cows wander back and go back, they're just going to walk back to their stables to be with their young. Ve'adanu ki lo yado nagabanu, then we will know that it wasn't God's hand. Mikre hu ayalanu, it happened to be coincidence. It happened by chance that we happened to get all these maladies. So that is the test. So in other words, they're separating cows from their babies, right, from their young, and their natural instinct would be to go straight back towards their young. If, however, the cows go straight up to the land of Israel and down the road, what's the first city is Beit Shemesh. That's where it's going. If it goes that direction straight without hesitation, then we know it is the affliction was brought to us by the Israelites' God. If the cows wander off and return back to their stable, then it was just happened to be whatever, coincidence. Who knows why we got these maladies. Vayasu anashim ken, and so the men did this. Vaikhushte farot alot, they took two milk-bearing cows, the cows that just gave birth. Vayasrum ba'agala, and they harnessed them to the cart. Ved b'nehem kaluva bait, and their calves they shut indoors. They separated them. Vayasimu et Aron Adonai el ha'agala, and they took and they put the ark of God upon the cart. Vet ha'argaz, and as well that box that with all the gold. Ve'et achbarei hazahav, ve'et talmeit chorehem, and the golden mice, and as well the figures of their hemorrhoids. I don't know. I the more I'm reading it, and I'm saying to myself, that there's there are some artists, that let's say, you can mold your hand or mold different parts of your body, or your head, and they want to, or whatever it might be, and other members of the body. I don't know if maybe they somehow also managed to form their literal formations of whatever it was. I don't know if they took a mold of their body to depict it. It could be Salmeit Chorehem. They're the figures of how do you what who was the model, decided to be the model, and who was the sculptor. So maybe there was a way of form in which they knew how to form literally the elements, or an impression of their element. I don't know. Could be. I'm just thinking it. What happened with these cows? Vayishrana haparot baderech, and the cows went straight forward. Al derech Beit Shemesh, head along the road that leads to Beit Shemesh. Bim sila achat halchu haloch vegao, in one single formation and alignment. In other words, they didn't sway directly, just as Google, right, straight ahead, please, 100 yards straight ahead with no veering left or right. They went straight. Velo sar yaminu small. They did not waver, not left, not right, not left. V'sarei felishtim holchim aracharihem, and the lords, the tribes heads, were following them ad gvul Beit Shemesh, until the border of Beit Shemesh. So very clear. It's the first option that they said, that they're going straight out. They had no inclination, these cows, to go back to their calves. Beit Shemesh, and the people of Beit Shemesh, kotzrim katzir chitim ba'emek. They are reaping their wheat harvest in the valley. And this is, by the way, where the commentaries say that for 7 months these mice were ravaging like their crops, because they're busy. The Beit Shemesh are busy. There's no mention of Katzir Chitim. Why do we need to know where they are? So they're saying this was the connection in terms of the economic devastation that the mice were also having. Vaisu tenehem, and so these Bet Shemeshites, they raise up their eyes, Vairu et Aron, and suddenly they see the ark, Vaismechu lirot, and they rejoiced. Obviously, there was this sense of grave loss. They're the most religious object, or holiest of the objects, has been possessed by an outside force. To see it coming back must have been an unbelievable sight. Ha'agala ba'a el Shua ben Beit Hashimshi fatamot sham, and the cart came rest at a field of Joshua the Beit Shemeshite. I guess that's what they name it after the place. V'sham even gdola, and there they had this huge stone, some kind of a stone structure. Vayivkeu et atzeha gala, and there what they decided to do is they literally ripped apart, split, and opened up, took all the wood that made up this cart. Ve'et haparot, and they took as well the cows. He'elu ola l'Adonai, and on this rock, this big rock, they offered God an offering. So they used the wood from the cart as, of course, the wood to create the fire, and the cows were used as the korban. The halvim horidu et Aron Adonai, and the Levites took down the ark of the Lord. Ve'et hargaza sherito. Again, there is this concept of the Torah, ein mukdam u'meuchar. The Torah is not written chronologically; it's written in story format. So they're not giving you necessarily, obviously, before they broke down and the wood and they how do you call it, and they burnt it up and make the offering. They removed the Leviim, removed the Aron, they removed the ark, Vet Argaza Sherito, and as well that box, that chest that was alongside it, Asher Bochle Zahav, in it which there are golden objects. Of course, to the Israelites, those golden objects mean what?
The 5 mice.
But what do they mean to the Israelites?
They're idols.
Absolutely nothing, right? They see nice 5 mice, and I don't know what the depiction of their maladies would be, but whatever, they just saw golden things. So Klei Zahav, you see, we have golden objects. There's no, they lose already the value of what they are. In other words, it was important for the Philistines of what they had, etc. But here, there's no connection. They have no idea. Vayasimu el ha'even hagdola, and they placed them on this large stone. Vanshei Beit Shemesh helu olot vayzbechu zvachim ba'yom ha'ul, and the people of Beit Shemesh, in ecstasy and in obviously being so happy with that the ark has returned, they offer burnt offerings and other sacrifices to the Lord the entire day. V'chamisha sarnei Filishtim ra'u, and the 5 lords of the Philistines witnessed this. Vayashuvu Ekron, they returned back to the city of Ekron. That's again, as we said, that's not in Ohio, that's not Ekron, right? They turned back to Ekron that day. So this is the, so to speak, the end of what it is. And now we have a recounting of where are each of the element or the depiction of the elements, what they represented. And here they are. And this is, again, you see, by the way, that it's, you would have thought that this is beforehand, if we were writing maybe today, the style of one per, pak, 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 and then you continue with the story. Here it's an overview again of what they did. Ve'ele techore hazahav asher heshivu Philishtim asham ladonai. And these were the golden hemorrhoids or golden malady depictions that the Philistines paid indemnity to God. Le-Ashdod echad, one representing Ashdod. Le-Aza echad, one representing Gaza. Le-Ashkelon echad, one for Ashkelon. Le-Gat echad, one representing Gath. And Le-Ekron echad, and one representing Ekron. Ve'achbarei zahav, and as for the golden mice, Mispar kol arei Philishtim lachameshet hasranim. Their number accorded with all the Philistine towns that belong to the 5 lords. So in other words, again, in the provinces, okay? Meir Miftzar ve'ad Kofer HaPerazi, both fortified towns and unwalled villages. Ve'ad Avel Hagdola, as far as the great stone. Asher hinichu alei et Aron Adonai, that which they placed the ark upon. Ad hayom hazeh bisdei Yoshua beit Hashimshi, and until which they placed, they set down the ark until this day. In other words, when it was written, the ark is still there. Okay. Vayach b'anshe Beit Shemesh, and suddenly God strikes the people. It says the men of Beit Shemesh. Hira'u ba'aron Adonai, for they were staring or looking at the ark of God. Vayach ba'am shivim ish, and there God struck them with 70 men. Chamishim elef ish. God struck down 70 men among the people and 50,000 men. It's very hard to explain it. We're going to look at a commentary. Vait ablu ha'am ki hika Adonai ba'amak hagdola. And the people mourned, for God had inflicted a great slaughter upon the population. I read this and it's very difficult for me to read, although the ark is not allowed to be, it's not an object of, forget about worship, which is not saying that they did, but it's almost like it was on display. If we know the Aron HaKodesh is not allowed to be, there's only one time that there's the Kohen goes into the Kodesh of Kodashim with Aronis, and that is on Yom Kippur.
Sure.
And even then we have part of the
only he goes in himself. It's a very private.
Right. And not only that, he has to fast beforehand and do tshuva. And if he's, and there's in the history there's many stories of the Kohen Gadol actually passing away there if he was not in the right mode or if he was not pious enough. If he walked in during that, then he would be punished with death. And there's they used to tie a rope to his waist, and if he didn't come out at a certain time, they would start tugging at the rope, and that's how you would not be able to retrieve the body otherwise. So then this is in the Kodesh HaKodeshim, the holies of holies. So imagine now, this is all right now, the ark is being displayed out in a field, and literally a great hit was hit upon the town of Beit Shemesh. Vayimru anshe Beit Shemesh, mi yuchal lamod lifnei Adonai ha'Elohim hakadosh hazeh. They said, in this case, who's going to be able to survive? Who's going to be able to be standing at the end before the great God whose power is way too overpowering for us? Ve'el mi yalem aleinu, and to whom shall he go up from us. In other words, where should we send? We can't leave this Aaron here either. Where are we sending it? Vaishlechu malachim, and so they sent messengers El Yoshvei Kiryat Yarim Lemor, to the inhabitants of Kiryat Yarim. Heshiva Plishtim et Aron Adonai. Listen, the Philistines returned to us God's ark. Redu ha'alu oto alechem. Please come down. Please
Okay.
come to Beit Shemesh and ha'alu oto alechem, and please bring it with you. So in other words, they're also trying to get rid of the Aron. And this is where we end. So the Aron right now, just as chapter 5 ends with they want to send out, now it's almost like it came across the border, but now also the Israelites recognize, what do they recognize, by the way?
The power of the Aron, the power of God, if they're not sufficiently kadosh to interact with it, they should be interacting with it as if it were an idol unto itself.
What's the bigger message? What is God trying to tell them?
He is the all-powerful, that he will look over them, that he will take care of them if they follow what he has laid out.
Yeah, exactly. In other words, God is making a point here that he's in charge. God is in charge. What do the Israelites have to do? What's the covenant? What is the Israelites part of the bargain?
Well, they have to observe the all
Right.
the mitzvot.
Right. In other words, we have a working deal here. You know, these are the rules which you accepted at Har Sinai, etc. That's your end of the bargain. I will watch over you. I have the power. I dictate which way it swings. You keep your end of the bargain. I'll keep my end of the bargain. This is not a heebie-jeebie type of magic potion that we have within this box. If you put it, people around it, go whoosh. No, I control what will happen. You have to keep your end of the bargain. I will keep mine. You will be protected forever. And we have to understand, looking at it back in terms of the war with Plishtim and that they lost.
We
Yes.
extrapolate from that what's going on today in the Middle East.
I'm not going down that road. That's not my place to say. Nor we can have a different class if you want a political.
No, I don't mean political. I mean just that
Mhm.
if we unite as a people and follow, be good people, maybe he'll watch over us.
It's beyond good people. The idea is we're contractually obliged to behave in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
In the simplest way of saying, it's not beyond good people, bad people. That's not that. There is, you can get on the hockey on a hockey arena,
Yeah.
and you can be a very nice person, but you still can't play soccer while a hockey game is going on, and you say no, I want to bring a baseball bat, and you start whacking at the puck with a baseball bat. They'll kick you off. You don't play the same sport. That's when
No,
you get
I
on,
didn't
there are
mean it
certain
that
rules.
way.
We have to, it's not just that you're a good person, we have to follow rules.
The rules are basically stemming from the 10 Commandments. No?
There are more. It's from the 10 Commandments are only 10
Yeah,
out of the
but there's also
600,
the 613 mitzvot.
another 603. That's correct. But 610 people mistake that there are 10 commandments. The 10 commandments were given as kind of an umbrella, and then we're continuing this week ve'ele hamishpatim, and these are the rules and ordinances. And we're going to continue with more. Peter has a question.
Yossi, in a number of these texts, there is reference to a vast number of people. 50,000 people died. What's the meaning of 50,000 people? Is it kind of a symbolic number? Is it sending a message? Because 50,000 people dying, that doesn't happen in an hour. I'm not quite sure how they died, but it's a massive number of people.
So I opened up Rashi on the right hand just to show you. This is Rashi's explanations of what it is. And it's absolutely, you're absolutely right. You do the math, right? If you kill one person every 10 seconds, let's see if I do the math correctly here, right? So here, right? 50,000 times 10 seconds will take you 500,000 seconds divided by 60 will take you 8,333, right? Now again, this is God inflicting it so they can die, you know, poof on you know, we're not given here a time frame, but it seems to me that it was all within one swooping. But let's read what Rashi says. Rashi says 70 men, 50,000 men. And it's a weird, remember I said it's a very difficult read because it's not the numbers themselves, but how it is constructed. Because they should have just said 50,000 and 70. Why 70 people and 50,000? So were there two how do you call it, two plagues, or what exactly happened? So let's see what Rashi says. 70 men, 50,000 men. Targum Yonatan, which is a very, like Rashi is at the bottom, Targum Yonatan is usually on the side, and he actually writes and reverts the Torah or the Tanakh back into Aramaic. Why? Because Aramaic, kind of like English. Imagine like now we have, you know, underneath we have translation into English. He's translating it into Aramaic, but usually he also explains things along the way. And he explains as follows. So Targum Yonatan says, and he killed of the elders of the people 70 men, and of the community 50,000 men. So he actually says that there were 70 of the elders and 50,000. Our rabbis, however, said 70 men, each of whom was equal to 50,000. In other words, these were great, who died were people who of stature in the community. These were not just the regular folk. These were leaders, people that were important in the community, or 50,000 men, each of whom was equal to the 70 of Sanhedrin. They have kind of they're not sure, or it was 50,000 people who died that only equaled Sanhedrin. In other words, that was their atonement. Sanhedrin was what? Was the high court. So
But
it's kind of like God
yes,
passing judgment.
70 does not go into 50,000.
No.
Hold on.
Yeah.
There's got to be some sort of symbolic meaning to both the number 70 and the number 50,000. They're not compatible from a mathematical point of view. They don't make any sense.
No. It's not a straight out math of division times. So
That's
again,
what
so what the rabbis are saying, they're giving you two flips of it. They're saying perhaps only 70 men died, equivalent to 50,000. 50,000 was a big amount, was like an army, was a huge army. That's where we get this I think this number. Or was it 50,000 who died of 50, in other words, 50 low people, if I can say, which they kind of represented the 70 of Sanhedrin. The number 70 represents the high court. There were 70 Sanhedrin.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of what they're playing. They're I guess offering those two objectives. They're not saying that's their explanation. It's very unclear. Some of the beauty.
But maybe it's as simple as the 70 people, elders of the Sanhedrin makeup, represented the population of 50,000 people.
that's one of the things. If you read, our rabbis, however, said 70 men, each of whom was equal to 50,000. In other words, 70 valiant, leaders who would by their death atone kind of for the 50,000. Exactly.
Okay.
That to me, I agree with you, Peter. To me, that is a little bit more palatable. I don't. Unless you're saying that the Israelites of Beit Shemesh should have immediately recognized that at the moment that they saw the ark, it has to go back to its place. They rejoiced, they were happy. By the way, we see something very similar as well as with the King David. Don't forget the ark remained in Shiloh and was not brought up to Ir David until David brings it back. And there's a whole haftarah about it, that he's dancing in front of the like he's dancing, and his Michal, one of his wife, was said that the king is embarrassing me, and she was punished as well. But even beforehand, as they were trying to bring the ark back, anybody who touched the cows or the cart that was on would die. So nobody wanted to touch it. Nobody wanted to. So it was sitting dormant. People were scared of coming into contact or being into the vicinity. So until finally it came through. So these people would never have known it, most likely. Or should they have known it, that they had to return right away? I don't know. But obviously it angered God in the way that it was being displayed, kind of like a museum object. Oh, look. And everybody would come over and look at it, and even though maybe they did it out of respect and love, the object was not treated with its dignity. It's not something that is to be seen. It's not something that is. It's not a piece of art that you put on the Louvre and just put a glass thing around it, and everybody goes to see it and say, "Wow, that's beautiful. Wow, okay, that's what it is." No, it's not. And by the way, that's I think also why one of the mysteries, we don't know where it is today and all that stuff, is it is definitely it's somewhere. It was taken somewhere, either somewhere where it's not known, or a lot of theorists say it's in the Vatican or somewhere in Rome, in some kind of as spoils. Who knows? And why has there not been? They have not been afflicted. If you want to ask a question, if it's somewhere, that's perhaps that's a valid question. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I've read a while in high school a couple of books. I don't remember all of them about like all these where the holy objects are, and it was very interesting. I don't remember everything right now. It was just a couple of moons ago, but it's theories, and there's stories of one guy seeing the seats and that the Kohen wore in the Vatican. Many, but there are treasures in many weird areas, in the same way that all these secrets. Maybe Peter, this is perhaps an answer. How can they disappear off the face of the earth? Something this, right? The Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's movies and all. How can they disappear off the face of the earth? Is something that's so great, because not everything was recorded, or at least some stuff was actually kept secret. And even in the Tanakh, even in the Torah, sometimes the language that is used is not literal. So the same way as we read in this parasha, eye for an eye. In that, it was making a point of how important it is. If somebody damages an eye, you can't just say, whatever, it's okay. I'll give you. No, there is a valuation. We have, every one of our actions is and it's not an eye for eye. If you by mistake poke, I'm not poking out your eye. And then there's a whole, the rabbis go to discussion how we evaluate that. I'm not going into that. That's a different story. But certain things are not literal, just like I think also beforehand when we read these huge amounts, of 20,000 soldiers dying or 60,000 soldiers dying. if you look at it in World War II terms, and that would be maybe the closest thing that we can comprehend. Look at how many bombs and weapons of mass destruction would have to be in place for that amount to actually come to be. So it was a representative, that a number it's kind of like, imagine you say to somebody, oh, a gazillion. I saw a gazillion stars. Did you really see a gazillion stars when you told your friend, I saw gazillion? Did you count? Do you know what gazillion is? No, but it's an exaggeration of seeing so many stars, that you couldn't even count. You couldn't begin to give a number. And I think this is also certain numbers were just so hugely disproportionate that to make that the highlight of how big the devastation it was, but it wasn't necessarily exactly that particular number. And that's what I believe, because certain numbers also would not make sense, or you would have pockets of areas that literally were non-inhabitable afterwards. It would be desolate for years to come, because the population was not the population that it was now in terms of what they were, and longevity and life expectancy was different. So I think, again, it's just to make a point, and it's a linguistic, it's an expression, if we can say that, of somebody saying millions of soldiers died.
Yossi,
Yeah.
can I ask a question?
Yes.
You showed the map last time.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I'm wondering, it starts off in Ashdod,
Yeah.
then it goes to Gath, and then
Yeah.
it goes to Ekron, and then it goes to Beth Shemesh.
Yeah.
Where are they all close towns to each other?
I have to just, maybe I'll do it this way. Does everybody see the maps?
Not yet.
No,
Okay, so. All right. How about now?
Now we do. Thanks, Yossi.
yes,
All right.
Beautiful.
So this, I'm gonna,
There we go. Yep.
so this is where it started. The ark came from Shiloh all the way. Actually, let me just annotate it so you'll see it. And I'm gonna annotate with my. So it starts off in Shiloh right here, and they bring it to the war front, which was in Even Ezer. The war takes place in Afek, and that's where the ark is captured. From there, it's taken to Ashdod, from Ashdod to Gath, from Gath to Ekron, and right now in Ekron, this is where they're sending it, Beth Shemesh. And as you can see, you'll see that there's still going to be 2 more phases. Okay, so now we are literally where we are literally right here.
Yeah.
Right, because the people of Bet Shemesh have called back to Kiryat Yarim, telling them, please come and take the ark from us. So this is where we are. So far it's making this turn. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
In terms of distance, you have Ashdod here, if you see it.
Yeah.
Gath is somewhere down here, or here's Gath. They have it. You see it?
Yeah.
It's a little bit. There's never a real clear map, but I think Gath is here too as well on the right hand side. You see it?
Yeah.
So I would say it's all within
Walking
10 to 20 kilometers at most. But in those days it's hilly and they're walking around. It's not not covering it with a Jeep, It's not it's a day's walk. Yes, it's a 5, 6 hours, 7 hours walk, march. It's a full day walk. the distance. So even here, even from Shiloh, Shiloh's higher, you know, Shiloh right here. You see it?
Mhm.
And then that also came to here. Do you see a crone here afterwards? It became later on done. Again, all the maps are not too how do you call it? Too
Accurate.
it's not pinpoint. These are roughly just to give us ideas of where they're all, and afterwards, you know, borders changed as well. But certain distances were obviously bigger than others. But again, this was so from here till this point right here. So this whole thing here, this arrow, this whole march of the thing, that was 7 months.
That was the first march to Jerusalem.
That was 7 months of the time. That was a 7 months lapse since the beginning of the war,
Just
or
kidding.
the end of the war, since the beginning of their taking over or capturing the Ark was 7 months. That journey, and it stopped in different places along the way. Okay, does that make does that answer?
So,
Makes sense.
It helps to see these maps.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
Yossi, remind us, we do or we don't have class next week?
So I reminded the next 2 weeks there are no classes. No class on the 12th, none on the 19th. That's God willing, if no cancellation for me. And then God willing, we'll be picking up on the 26th.
Okay.